We have a great cross-section, and on the very far end we have Armin Martens, who is the CEO of Artis REIT, and I'm sure you're going to have some comments on John's presentation. In the middle we have Peter Sense, who heads up capital markets for CBRE, and right next to me we have Joe Mazzacco, who was formerly head of KingSett Capital. Our agenda this evening is I'm going to cover a wide range of topics on commercial real estate, and I'll be soliciting opinions from our panel members. Then at the end, I'm going to do a rapid fire question segment. And then time permitting, I'm going to ask David Sung to come up at the end and allow for any questions from the audience for our panel members. Our goal is to have you out by 8:30 this evening. So let's get started. You'll notice that we didn't give any bios of the three gentlemen on the stage. So because people like to talk about themselves, I want you, each of you, to help the audience learn more about you. How did you get started in real estate? What is your role now with your current company? So maybe Armin, I can start with you.
Sure, I'll start with a brief commercial. I am the CEO of a TSX-listed REIT that sometimes suffers the vagrancies of an inefficient capital market, TSX market, public market, if you will. So Artis REIT, we're a diversified commercial REIT. We'll talk about diversified real estate some more today. We invest in office, retail, and industrial. We've grown in the last 14 years from 1 building to 250 buildings, from 15 million to 5.7 billion in assets. We've diversified into the United States. That helped us a lot. So we're about 45% in the US, 55% in Canada, in 3 asset classes, and well diversified. So I'm the founding CEO of the REIT about 14 or 15 years ago. Got my start the old-fashioned way as part of an immigrant family. My dad did the heavy lifting, starting the company, building up a construction company and growing into development and property management as well. I never had to worry about what I was doing during a school year on a Saturday. I was going to a job site somewhere, and I never had to fill out a job application this summer. I was going to one of my dad's job sites. But by the time I finished engineering, I was fortunate. I knew a lot. I was already a project estimator, I was a project superintendent, I was a project manager, and to the extent it's possible, as a graduate engineer, I was able to hit the ground running and grow from there. And so over the years, I've done business in both the US and in Canada, all across Western Canada in particular, and the central US corridor. And as I mentioned, about 15 years ago, we founded Artis REIT. We were able to grow that from 1 building into a larger enterprise.
Thank you. Peter, please.
Great. Thank you very much, Peter Senst. And it's amazing how time flies. But I've now been in this business since 1987. And much like you were talking about, Armin, parents seem to have a big impact on what you do. So my dad came to Canada in 1952, was part of the roll-up of LePage, and just meeting a lot of his friends when I started interviewing. One of them, the head of the international division, a fellow named Charles St. Thomas, said, "I think you'd be great in real estate. I'd like you to come and work for us." And it's really been something where following your charts, looking at the difference between real estate, equities, I kind of felt some of that same pattern. So we've seen some amazing things in Canada. So as a firm now, the top line revenue for 2017 was 14.3 billion, market cap through 20 billion. So it's a really significant company. It's 85,000 people around the world. So I would have responsibilities for inbound capital into Canada, domestic activity, and then the big Canadian capital that wants to go out. So it's been a really interesting maturation of the real estate business. We've seen the big Canadian go abroad, make us all very proud. They're doing some of the biggest deals. They've got the most sophisticated teams. And really, it's something where around the world there's so much respect for Canadians, Canadian real estate, that it's just a pleasure to be in the industry.
Thank you. And Joe, is this your coming out party?
It is not, and I'll explain why he said that in a second. While I was doing my MBA at York University, the school started a program called the Real Property Development Program. So as opposed to the traditional accounting, marketing, all the other types of specializations that you can do in MBA, they added real estate. And I really wasn't that interested in anything else. And similar to the other two gentlemen, my family background, very stereotypically being Italian, was in the construction business, ranging from home building to bricklaying to other fields. So I thought, why don't I try that? That led to my first job at an appraisal firm where it was like drinking out of a fire hose. Learned a ton. It was a great place to start. While I was at that appraisal firm, which doesn't exist today, we spun out a real estate services business called RealNet, which does exist today. Actually purchased by Altus not too long ago, which is a big real estate information and service company. Then while I was at RealNet, I was getting a little off the beaten track of pure real estate. Had an opportunity to join CIBC World Markets in the real estate investment banking group. Another drinking from a fire hose experience, which was fantastic. And then flipped over to the ownership side and moved to KingSett in 2005. And I was at KingSett until January of this year, and I left. And I've left for a little bit of a midlife hiatus, which is why Mark asked if I was going to make some kind of announcement tonight. I'm not. I'm enjoying that midlife hiatus. But while at KingSett, I co-headed the investment team for the past 8 years. Phenomenal experience. KingSett, one of Canada's largest real estate private equity firms, involved in numerous types of deals, and I was involved in almost all of them, and it was just phenomenal experience and got to see a lot of transactions and a lot of creative deals.
Thank you, Joe. I think it's great that we can all learn about your backgrounds and how you actually got into the industry.